Hey entrepreneurs, today I want to tell you why suppressing your emotions can sap your cognitive power. It can take your mental ability down. So what I'm talking about here is the natural tendency for us to have some feelings that we don't want to show on the outside. So we damp down what's happening on the inside so that it doesn't show on the outside. Maybe that's so that you can keep confidence high as you walk into a sales call. Maybe that's so that your team can get a sense of confidence and well-being from just reading your emotional tone. But there is a cost to that. And sometimes suppression is something we do for ourselves. We suppress an emotion because it's not effective. It's not the kind of emotion that we need to draw on in order to achieve whatever's in front of us, the task that we need to accomplish. So it's natural. It's a natural part of being human, but it does come with a cost. And one of the causes, one of the things that it does when you're trying to control your facial expressions or your vocal tone or your body language, trying to essentially keep things private, what happens when we do that is it suppresses the brain power you could be using for something else. So I've mentioned in the past that some psychological research shows that our fluid reasoning ability and our working memory, two of the most easily susceptible aspects of our cognitive functioning, those are both things that we actually use a test on IQ tests when we're trying to get a general sense for someone's intellectual capacity, their aptitude for learning, are those two elements. Fluid reasoning, which means it's not crystallized intelligence. It's not stuff that you learned a long time ago. It's not memory. It's more like your ability to figure out an analytical puzzle that's visual. It's not something you learned in school, but we test that and we call that fluid reasoning ability. Working memory is like if I said, I'm going to say 7 numbers. I want you to keep them in your head and say them back to me. That's working memory. Both of those aspects of cognitive functioning decline when you have your cell phone in the room with you, even if the cell phone is turned off and upside down on your desk so you can't see the notifications. Even if the cell phone is in the room with you in a drawer compared to if you put it in another room, turned off in another room. So that's how subtle distraction can be when some part of your brain is monitoring something. So in that case, what you're monitoring is essentially that cell phone is like a conduit into the entire world of social connections you have. And it has notifications for you about all kinds of things, dinner plans and people who liked or didn't like something you tweeted. There's all kinds of notifications coming in, right? And so some part of your brain is aware of that and is trying to hold that here while you're doing some other task with your mind consciously. And it decreases the amount of your mind, your brain power that you can bring to whatever you're doing. Suppression has a similar effect. When you're trying to suppress an emotion, it takes up mental space in a way that you're not consciously aware of. And there's an alternative. So suppression might be something like saying, let's say I'm having a day where I'm just not feeling very optimistic. Let's say revenue's down and something went wrong and I'm just feeling kind of low energy. But I have to walk into a room and present something about our company to a room of potential investors. And in a situation like that, I might use suppression. I might say, I don't really have time to do anything except for suppress that emotion so I can get through this situation that's right here in front of me. And so what I might say, like, I've got this, like I can do this. I'm the best. And I'm just going to adopt that mindset that I'm the best at what I'm going to present to them. And I'm just going to suppress that feeling of lack that I came into this meeting with. That's suppression. It can be somewhat helpful, but there's a better alternative, and that's reappraisal. Reappraisal is what we do a lot in cognitive therapy when we're working with someone with depression or anxiety. That's where we, instead of doing the short-term, suppress the emotion just so you can get through this for the moment, which is sometimes a healthy coping technique. Instead, it's a longer-term coping technique that's stronger. And reappraisal would be things like restructuring the way you're seeing something, reframing it. So if you reframe something in your mind to say, you know what, I don't actually need these investors to invest or to be impressed with our company or me or what we're trying to achieve. All I need to really do is show up enough times so that the right people recognize the opportunity that is right here in front of them. That's reappraisal. It might take down the need for the day to go perfectly, it might decrease anxiety. Or if it was the low mood thing that's causing me to not feel like I can show up with the right energy for that task, then my reappraisal should be about the thing that caused me to have low mood. So, okay, it was a down day in revenue, but then I might use factual thinking to counteract some of the negative thoughts I had about that. I might say, well, this has been the best quarter we've ever had revenue-wise, so I guess it's normal that there's going to be some fluctuation, and we can't just always expect an upward and to the right direction with our revenue without some small corrections. And so that perspective change comes from reappraising the situation that caused the emotion. Instead of suppressing an emotion, we're actually shifting at a root level whether that emotion is being created as strongly as it was a moment ago. So here's your challenge for this week. Just take a moment to ask yourself, is there an emotion you've been suppressing? Interestingly enough, suppressing emotions can actually make people like you less. And it's because at a subconscious level, people can tell when you're suppressing emotions, especially if it's a strong emotion, that they may not be able to consciously realize it, but at some subconscious level, they're picking up on micro expressions and indications that you may be suppressing emotion. And it makes them feel a little bit less comfortable, like less trust or less understanding of what you're bringing to that interaction with them. And sometimes their heart rate will actually go up. You can detect a slight increase in their stress when they're with someone who's suppressing an emotion versus being open and just talking about something that's frustrating them and working on trying to do some reappraisal about that scenario. So here's your challenge. Don't let suppression sap your willpower, make you less likable when you're interacting with people. Be more real by doing a little bit of work on yourself. If you need to, if you show up to work one day and it's one of those days where you need to spend 15 minutes doing some reappraisal, or you need to talk to a coach like me, or even if it's something deeper that maybe requires some serious work, go see a therapist and do some work to restructure your thoughts so that it changes the underlying emotion itself through reappraising the situation instead of always just suppressing the emotions. You can press on. That's your challenge for this week. Be aware of your emotions, practice reappraisal when it's effective and useful, and I'll talk to you again next week.